now call to order the December 6, 2024 meeting of the Board of Regents. Roll call, please.
Regent Adidam. Regent Devaraju.
Present.
Regent Herbin. Regent Schroeder. Regent Clare. Regent Kenny.
Yes.
Regent O'Connor. Regent Schaefer.
Yes.
Regent Shear.
Yes.
Regent Stark.
Yes.
Regent Whites.
Yes.
Regent Wilmot.
Present.
A quorum is present.
In your materials, you have copies of the minutes from the meetings of October 4th, 2024. I'd entertain a motion for approval.
So moved. Second.
Are there any corrections to the minutes? Roll call, please.
Regent Devaraju.
Yes.
Regent Herbin.
Yes.
Regent Schroeder.
Yes.
Regent Adidam. Regent Kenny.
Yes.
Regent O'Connor. Regent Schaefer.
Yes.
Regent Shear.
Yes.
Regent Stark.
Yes.
Regent Whites.
Yes.
Regent Wilmot.
Yes.
Regent Clare. The motion passes.
In compliance with the Nebraska Open Meetings Act, the board has posted a copy of the act on the south wall of the boardroom, which is behind the seating area for the press. I will now turn it over to President Gold for presentations.
Well, good morning and welcome to all of you, members of the Board of Regents, colleagues, members of the University of Nebraska community. Thank you for joining us today as we continue on our odyssey to the extraordinary. Part of this odyssey, measure our progress by the achievements of our students and faculty and by the ripples that we create. And I believe we have a slide. If somebody could tee up the slides, that would be great. Thank you very much.
Oh, there it is.
And by the ripples that we create, the economic, social, and cultural waves that extend beyond our campuses. This morning, however, we have the privilege of hearing from someone who has been instrumental in helping us to quantify and to validate those ripples. Dr. Paul Umbach, co-founder of Trip Umbach, a nationally recognized leader in economic impact analysis, is with us today. Over the years, his team has provided critical insights into the role of the University of Nebraska and how we play into fueling the state's economy. Trip Umbach's most recent formal analysis in 2021, they found that for every dollar the state invests in the University of Nebraska, we return $9. This return on investment underscores the role we play in strengthening Nebraska's economy. But as extraordinary universities do, we are not stopping there. Dr. Umbach has been working on an updated economic impact report for the 2023-2024 fiscal year. And the draft findings he will share this morning are a reflection of our momentum and progress. Dr. Umbach's work reminds us that a university's influence is not confined to the borders of our campuses. Every graduate, every innovation, every partnership sends ripples across the state, enriching communities and transforming lives on a daily basis. Extraordinary universities create deeper and more far-reaching ripples, and it is clear that the University of Nebraska is leading the way in demonstrating how public higher education can and will continue to drive economic vitality into the future. Now, following Dr. Umbach's presentation, you will hear from one of our own. That would be Dr. Nicole Kent, a former UNK student regent, UNMC student regent, who embodies the impact we are discussing today. Nicole's story exemplifies the return on investment that the University of Nebraska delivers to the state, far above and beyond the simple measurements of economic impact. So please join me this morning in welcoming Dr. Paul Umbach to share his insights on the economic power of higher education and the University of Nebraska's role as a true catalyst for progress. Paul, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Gold, and thank you, Regents. Looking forward to our presentation. I want to say that my journey began in Nebraska at Concordia and Seward when I didn't become a Lutheran minister, but became an economic geographer. My mom, who's still alive, is still sad about that. And she goes, I can't even say economic geography, but I want you to know that in the next 10 minutes, you're going to learn a little bit about economic geography, but more importantly, the impact that you have on the very special geography of the state of Nebraska. And I want to begin by saying that, as Dr. Gold mentioned, we have had the opportunity for about 20 years to have a relationship with the university system, with the different university units, but also with many of the pieces of the university. It's been a real honor for us to be able to be your partner in demonstrating the economic impact. Back in 2021, your economic impact was an impressive $5.8 billion. Let me unpack that number just a little bit for you. That's the operational impact. That's the spending of the university that stays in Nebraska, the spending by employees and staff, the spending by students, the spending by visitors that come to games and come to events and conferences. And it's only the numbers that stay and circulate within the Nebraska economy. So the first rock hitting the pond, or it doesn't look like a rock, I think that looked more like a droplet hitting the pond, is the spending. But the ripples go beyond that. And you'll see that as we've now remeasured the economic impact, it's $600 million higher than it was before, and that's only within 3 years. And the total number of jobs supported by the University of Nebraska system has grown to over 52,000 jobs. And you might look at that and say, but we don't have that many employees. But for every employee that you have and for every dollar that you spend, it creates jobs in different sectors. So today I'm staying at the Hyatt Place. I walked to a coffee bar that I used to go to in 1981 called The Mill, and I spent money. And I'll probably spend money on lunch on the way back. So I'm representing fresh dollars coming in. And there's employees that work at the hotel and at the coffee bar that have their job partially because I came with fresh dollars from the outside. And because of that, we start to see if that ripples throughout the entire state. For every job that you're creating and all the indirect jobs you're supporting, it's about 1 out of every 20 jobs in Nebraska is supported in some way by the University of Nebraska system. And as Dr. Gold mentioned, $10 is returned to the economy for every $1 that you receive from the state. These are going to be important things to communicate coming up in the next session. So we were able to, as we did last time, break down these data by geography. And this is just really the beginning. This is what each of the university campuses and units mean individually. And you can see that $6.8 billion is now divided into, $8.4 billion is divided into the different campuses. And there's been some significant improvement in each of the campuses over that time, with the University of Nebraska Medical Center having about a $300 million increase. And you're also seeing that the University of Nebraska Omaha now is over $1 billion in impact, and the Lincoln University of Nebraska Lincoln is now over $3 billion. This is the beginning of breakouts that we're going to be doing by county, by legislative district. I know I've learned something in Nebraska besides the blue dot. I've learned something called 50+1, and that's the audience for a lot of this in the new year. And being able to break down these data, which we have, which I'm not showing today, you'll be able to go to each of the congressional representatives at the federal level, but you can also go to your state senators and the governor and talk about what the impact is in each of those districts. This time around, because we've always worked with University of Nebraska Medical Center, and Nebraska Medicine has always been part of the study, but in other years, they had done their studies on different off cycles. So we would do a project when Dr. Gold was the chancellor, and we would have the economic impact of Nebraska medicine and UNMC and roll that up. Well, this time we decided to do them all at the same time so we can do a plus. And what we have here is 6.4 billion, which is the economic impact of the university system, plus 5.5 billion, which is the economic impact of Nebraska medicine, equaling a total of 11.9 billion. And sorry, my numbers were off before. I need glasses now. Apparently, as I get older, I can't quite see the screen that far away. I was confusing the 6 and the 4, but I'm okay now. But what you're looking at here is that means that 1 out of every $12 in the state's economy is related to Nebraska medicine when you add it to the University of Nebraska system. So out of the $144+ billion economy, we're now starting to see that the university with its medical center partner in Omaha is the largest single entity or entities driving the Nebraska economy. That will be an important message to communicate. We're also looking at how many more economic impact has grown over the years, and you'll see that there's been a $1.6 billion increase in the past 3 years between Nebraska medicine and the University of Nebraska system, and that represents almost a 16% growth rate when you put the two together in 3 years. And that's double the economic impact growth of the entire Nebraska economy. So if I'm communicating this with a lawmaker, I would be able to very honestly say that we're growing and outpacing the economy by 2 times. So for every dollar the economy has grown in the last 3 years, we've driven $2. And I feel that that will be an important message as we get going down the road with communication. We're also looking at the job impact when you add Nebraska medicine and you add the University of Nebraska system. You'll remember that 52,000 number from the previous slide. Adding that to 43, almost 44,000 jobs that are generated by the medical center. And when I say medical center, I mean Nebraska medicine. And something you need to know is that there's no double counting in this, and that when we look at the data, and that's why it's nice to do it all at the same time, we're able to say this is UNMC and this is Nebraska medicine, so there's no double counting. And then when we put this together, we're able to show how many total jobs are supported statewide. And again, this isn't just in Omaha, this is statewide. So when we look at the presence of Nebraska, University of Nebraska Medical Center in Kearney, and when we look at other places where they have nursing programs in Scottsbluff and Norfolk, we start to see that this is really touching the lives of the entire 500-mile campus. And that translates to 1 in 11 jobs. So pretty much if you get 11 Nebraskans in a room at any time throughout the year, one of their jobs, if they're working, is related to the University of Nebraska in some way or Nebraska medicine. When we start to look over time at these jobs, the jobs have grown here at 13% over the last 3 years, while the state only had an 8% increase. So again, jobs are growing faster that you're creating than jobs in the overall economy. And Nebraska's been in a strong position in the last 3 years since COVID. So it's not like the Nebraska economy is not strong. It's just the university's driver of the economy has been markedly stronger. Research is one of the things we're going to take a bigger focus on in this report, and research is something that touches all the campuses, including out in Curtis, where you have your research station. It also provides an opportunity for us to look at how the research spending really impacts the economy. Research spending has a really important economic impact because the dollars that come from the federal government are really represented as fresh dollars coming in. And when those dollars come in, those are dollars that didn't need to be generated. Those are dollars that come in and are spent in the economy. And we got some really good story here to tell, in that federal research awards have increased by 20% over the last 2 years, and that's only in a 2-year period. And we're also looking that the economic impact of the spending of research has gone from almost 600 million to closer to 800 million over that period. What's interesting about the research is that we're only counting the research dollars that are spent because of the way the model is built. This is a fresh spending model. It's an input-output model based on spending. But the awards have grown even more, and we'll be able to, in the report, talk about how the awards of grants are increased. But for the economic impact purposes, this is what we're showing. Now, I've shared a lot of information with you, and one thing I want to share is that there's many, many, many more things that aren't included. For example, in the report, you'll see the alumni impact, and that's significant. Billions and billions of dollars are generated by alumni who own and operate businesses and have their employment in the state. There's charitable contributions and donations. There's the value of volunteer services. In the final report, you're going to see more about the economic and social impact of having a great university. And even as far as we go in that, even as much as we try to tell that story, we're still undercounting how much impact there is. Think of me, a guy who went to Concordia and started a business. And I come back and I bring that gift to Nebraska and to other states. And what about the folks that get their training to become a physician or a healthcare professional? Their impact is far beyond just the dollars they receive and spend. So our alumni model will tell you that Nicole, who I'm going to introduce, will, if she stays in Nebraska, will have economic impact from her spending. But my gosh, think about how much more in the care that she provides, the healthcare benefit, the cost savings. We know that people that have college degrees are healthier, live longer, are more prosperous, have lower cost, have greater benefit to society. None of that's counted. So I want to now, as we talk about the ripple effect, pass it to Dr. Nicole, who is going to share her story about, as she moves on, she's bringing the impact of the university with her. So, Nicole, welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Umba. So, hi, I'm Nicole Kent, and I am a recent alumna of the University of Nebraska Medical Center, as well as an alumna of the University of Nebraska at Kearney. And now I'm a first-year resident in the primary care program at UNMC. As you know, I grew up in a small town in the southwest corner of Nebraska. Dankelman, that's right. Most recent census, I believe, population 821. And I was really lucky growing up to have really incredible people in my life that helped guide me towards the health opportunities programs in our state. I ended up attending the University of Nebraska at Kearney largely because of the incredible opportunity from the K-HOP program, which then guaranteed me a spot at UNMC in the medical school, as long as I held up my end of the bargain academically. In my time at both UNK and UNMC, I was afforded the opportunity to learn not just from classroom experiences, but also to learn from other experiences, from the leadership experiences that brought me before you today, to presenting research in Japan, to learning from my peers through intercultural experiences on my own campus. The University of Nebraska invested in me. You all invested in me, and I don't know when it will not feel strange to stand in front of you as a physician. Maybe Dr. Gold can tell me if that ever stops feeling strange. But I am very lucky to be able to spend my residency at UNMC as well before I enter my independent practice as a physician, as a primary care doctor here in Nebraska, location to be determined. Regents, you know me and you know my story, but I'm here today to underscore to you that I am just a representative. I'm not a rarity. I'm not a diamond in the rough. I am lucky that I've been able to represent my peers at UNK, my peers at UNMC, and now the alumni of the University of Nebraska, and the impact that we have, the ripple effect that we have. Every day at the University of Nebraska, I've been surrounded by kind and brilliant individuals like the student regent sitting at the table with you today. And you get to see us. You don't get to see the thousands and thousands of other Nebraskans that have been trained at the University of Nebraska. You don't get to see those ripples, and it's very humbling to be here, to be that representative to you. The vitality of our future state depends not just on physicians, but on well-trained teachers and business leaders and agriculturalists and more. And Dr. Umbaugh shared the numbers with you, and it's humbling to be that representative of those numbers. And I thank you for all you have done to invest in me and in my future community, the future of our state. So thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Paul?
There was an economic impact analysis that Dr. Umbach did just about K-HOP and R-HOP only earlier this year, and that was a $500 million impact that the K-HOP and R-HOP programs return to the rural economies of Nebraska. So just wanted to point that out, that because Nicole mentioned she was a K-HOP student, that's another number just to tag the $500 million.
You could see me smile, Deli, when she said K-HOP. I was like, you're part of that $500 million too. And that's an amazing thing. So thank you for mentioning that.
I'd just like to say thank you to both of you, because I love having facts that I can talk about with confidence. And Nicole, student regents are such a blessing for the Board of Regents, and you bring so much information and so much awareness of what's happening on our campuses. And thinking about you as a representative, I couldn't think of a better one. Thank you so much for being here.
Any other questions for Nicole or Paul? I have one question, if you don't mind. A lot of my colleagues across the country who have done repeated economic impact studies, on the heels of the recent COVID pandemic, did not share growth news. They shared contraction news, large academic medical centers. And I'm just wondering, in your experience across the country, are you seeing those trends, or are they reversing, or how unique are we that we have continued such a substantial growth trajectory?
Most of the universities where we've done re-studies have been pretty flat. Some have decreased. Healthcare parts of the places we've worked have not been as strong. Some of that was propped up by ERA funding. Some of that was propped up by federal stimulus funding. But in terms of solid growth, 600 million more in economic impact, something everyone should be very proud of and be able to boldly state. So as I think about where you've been, you were already in 2021 on an upswing, and you kept powering through. And I think that if you look at from now till 2030, which is only a couple weeks and 5 years from now, and 2040 is only a couple weeks and 15 years from now, I think you're going to be in a really good place. So as I'm looking at the numbers from, we do about 50 of these projects a year, and some have been re-studies like yours, and you're in the best position of the university systems that we've worked with. So thanks for asking that question.
Well, I'm a huge fan of Nicole's. Been going out to Benkelman, Nebraska since I have been going out to Benkelman, Nebraska since 1993, and didn't know Nicole from that, but because I doubt she was even born then. But I think what Nicole represents is an intentionality that we had to, as a university, to attract young high school students to the prospect of, if you go through this program, you can have an opportunity to go to higher learning. And then you have the opportunity to stay in the state of Nebraska. And Nicole is one example that really underscores that investment that has been made. And I think about that, and I think we as a university really need to double our efforts and double down on keeping and retaining this outstanding talent that we have all over our state, not just in Benkelman, Nebraska, but throughout our entire state. And if we do that and we invest in those efforts, those numbers that you just showed can be significantly higher, because you've got somebody that's got a true love for the state and wants to stay here and wants to be a part of it and wants to help the next generation realize their dreams and goals. So I challenge all of us to celebrate Nicole and what she did, but also let's look at doubling down our efforts to enhance it for the next student, the next class, and really try to attract more students to stay in this great state.
Well, I just want to add to what Regent Claire said, and just to thank Nicole for disrupting her very busy schedule, giving of her time, but most importantly being, I think, one of the very best examples of the ripples of the impact of this great university. I mean, you think about all the patients that she will care for in her career, all the families, all the students she will mentor, the example that she will set for rural and urban communities, bringing them together. It's truly remarkable. And as she said, she is one of thousands and thousands, actually 11,000 graduates a year. So multiply that out, and that's why the impact of this university is so great. Well, unless there are any further questions, sir, I turn it back to you. And I thank Dr. Umbach and Dr. Kent for your time here today. Appreciate it.
We'll now move on to the Kudos Awards. At each Board of Regents meeting, we also take time to recognize those persons who all too often don't receive recognition that they deserve. The Board of Regents believes that it is vitally important that we acknowledge your commitment as well as your contributions to the university. To have been nominated by either a supervisor or a fellow worker is an honor in and of itself. As the kudos recipients are announced, please come to the podium and join the Regent making the presentation. Following each presentation, we will take pictures that will appear on our website. The President, Chancellor, and the recipient's family members and supporters will be part of the photo. The first kudos recipient is Julie Stahl from the University of Nebraska at Kearney, and the award will be presented by Regent Schroeder.
On behalf of the Board of Regents, I am pleased to present a Kudos Award to Julie Stahl, Continuing Resources Associate for the Calvin T. Ryan Library at the University of Nebraska at Kearney. Julie earned a Bachelor's of Arts degree in Business Administration from Kearney State College in 1983, working as a student at the Calvin T. Ryan Library, then moving to a full-time in 1984. In the 4 decades since, Julie has witnessed multiple administrations and reorganizations in library services, with changes from card catalogs to the digital age. She has shepherded the library's serials and continuing resources collections through the late 20th and early 21st centuries. Her role changed significantly from print management to digital management, including transitions from multiple software platforms. Working with her supervisor in the business office, she certifies bill payment, licensing, government protocols, and data management. She shared, I feel fortunate that the opportunities align with my strengths. I enjoy the tasks of processing materials and helping students find what they needed. Jumping in whenever challenges arise, she and staff faced a massive mold outbreak during the pandemic with the collection integrity endangered. They saved everything. As a significant contributor to physical collection changes, she was vital during the recent renovation and remains vital with changes in digital materials. Her deep knowledge of historic library practices led to overall success during the migration of the university's data systems. Past data mergers were muddled by former practices that were hard to understand. David Arredondo, Collection Services Librarian, says Julie is a joy to work with. Her dedication to and care for the UNK students and community is shown through her organizational skills and attention to detail. She actively seeks to learn and increase proficiency in her work without expecting recognition. This is a well-deserved reward. Julie has been steadfast presence in her library. She helps all of us to be better at our work, me most of all. With Julie today are her husband, Jerry Stahl, her supervisor, David Arredondo, and Dean of the Library, Evan Boyd. Congratulations to Julie Stahl, an admired colleague willing to embrace change and new responsibilities while developing new skills, making her a vital part of the Calvin T. Library. We are very fortunate to have her on our team. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Julie. Rebit Herbin will present the Kudos Award to Tricia Bosetilish from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln.
The Board of Regents is pleased to present a Kudos Award to Tricia Bosetilish, Director of Counseling and Psychological Services, or CAPS, at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. For 6 years, Tricia has led a 20-person team of clinicians and staff providing mental health support through individual, partner, and group therapy, offering crisis services, workshops, and specialized resources for suicide prevention, disordered eating, and substance abuse issues. CAPS conducted nearly 10,000 sessions last year, meeting an increasing mental health need of students. The staff carry a higher load of clients than peers in private practice and see more intense cases. This can lead to higher levels of burnout and have led to positions being difficult to fill. Diligently and creatively increasing staff retention while meeting student needs, Tricia implemented a career ladder that provides progressive advancement opportunities for staff when they meet established markers. Recent hires have identified the career ladder as a motivating factor for wanting to work at CAPS. To meet student needs, reduce barriers, and aid in their success, Tricia has diversified the delivery of services. In addition to in-person sessions with a counselor, students can have telehealth appointments via a national provider or community referrals. Crises arise at any time. A 24/7 crisis line was established so that help is not limited to business hours. These innovations have had positive and demonstrable effects on students. In a national survey by the Center for Collegiate Mental Health, UNL students report nearly identical levels of mental health issues and their peers in the pre-survey. However, the post-treatment survey, CAPS students report significantly improved outcomes, less depression, stress, and anxiety compared to the national average. Trisha and her team exemplify our campus core tenet that every person and every interaction matters. Joining Trisha today are her husband, Shane Alish, her father, Thomas Bussett, and Associate Vice Chancellor for Student Life, Josh Overrocker. Please join me in thanking Trisha for her dedication to the University of Nebraska-Lincoln.
Congratulations, Tricia. Regent Devarahu will now present the Regents Kudos Award to Megan Bluesies from the University of Nebraska Medical Center.
On behalf of the Board of Regents, I am pleased to present a Kudos Award to Megan Bluesies, recently named Director of Chancellor Communications for the UNMC Office of the Chancellor. Megan previously served as Senior Manager of Communications and Media for UNMC Academic Affairs. Megan's nominators say she is forward-thinking with a strategic focus on effective marketing and communications. Since joining UNMC in 2014, she has collaborated closely with the program directors developing an impressive portfolio of online and print materials that support and document the growth of UNMC programs such as e-learning, the Interprofessional Academy of Educators, graduate studies, and postdoctoral education. Quote, Megan is always making insightful suggestions and looking for ways to improve existing processes, one nominator said, noting how she introduced and learned Power Automate to help improve event registration. Quote, it has been a huge time saver, end quote, her nominator said. Megan is a caring and selfless teammate who effectively translates content in an easy-to-understand way for internal and external audiences, her nominators said. Quote, she works closely with her clients to meet and exceed expectations while prioritizing innovation and a distinctive design and style, end quote. Today, Megan is joined by her supervisor, Interim Chancellor Dr. Deli Davies, and her husband, Joe Bluesies. Join me in thanking Megan for the work she's done to elevate UNMC's people and programs through her creative design talents and organizational communication skills.
Congratulations, Megan. Regent Adididam will present the Kudos Award to Megan LeClaire from the University of Nebraska, Omaha.
The Board of Regents is pleased to present a Kudos Award to Megan LeClaire, Senior Events Manager for the University of Nebraska at the University of Omaha's Baxter Arena. Megan manages more than 110 student workers and has partnered with the business office to create a new employee onboarding process that meets the needs of employees and provides them with the tools and resources they need to succeed. Michael Smith, Senior Associate Athletic Director and General Manager of Baxter Arena, says, Megan has consistently demonstrated exceptional dedication to fostering an inclusive environment that welcomes and supports all members of our campus community. Her commitment to creating a space where everyone feels valued and respected is evident in her daily interactions and initiatives. By providing students with opportunities for professional development, Megan is helping to shape the next generation of successful leaders. Her commitment to student success is an asset to our university, says Michael Smith. He says, her curiosity and thirst for knowledge inspire others to seek out new challenges and opportunities for growth. Megan encourages her
her team to think outside the box and explore new ideas. Today, Megan's guests are her husband, Alan LeClaire II, nominator Michael Smith, and Cricket Gilly, her supervisor and assistant general manager at Baxter Arena. Please join me in thanking Megan for her dedication to the University of Nebraska at Omaha.
Yeah, I think.
Congratulations, Megan. Connor Thurstein from the University of Nebraska Office of the President is our final recipient, and the award will be presented by Regent Claire.
The Board of Regents is pleased to present a kudos award to Connor Thurstein, Workstation Support Associate for Central IT Client Services located on the UNO campus. When an IT problem occurs, there is almost always a level of angst involved. When Connor comes to the aid, you will have a positive outcome, no doubt. His dedication to his role and his commitment to providing exceptional service make him ideal for this recognition. His work ethic, attitude, and professionalism have significantly contributed to the success of the department. Nominator Rachel Rodell says Connor consistently goes beyond normal expectations. After resolving technical issues in our office, Connor proactively follows up to ensure that the problem remains fixed. This demonstrates his attention to detail and his deep commitment to customer satisfaction. He will recall specific issues and willingly verify that everything is still functioning smoothly. Connor's responsibilities extend across our entire campus, and there have been multiple occasions where he has been seen running between buildings to ensure that he meets everyone's needs promptly. Joe, is that something that you help out with too? You're kind of an Energizer bunny. He approaches every challenge with an unwavering can-do attitude, never avoiding full ownership of a problem or suggesting a task was someone else's responsibility. While collaborating with his counterparts, he ensures the job is done efficiently and professionally. As a testament to his strong character, he works effectively as part of a team while maintaining a positive demeanor. Commitment to excellence in his daily work, managing his time wisely, and working quickly and efficiently to minimize client downtime ensures all return to their tasks as soon as possible. Connor is an invaluable asset to our department. Connor's guests are Supervisor Eric Hinsdale and Brett Bieber, Assistant Vice President of IT Client Services. Join me in congratulating Connor for this outstanding recognition from the University of Nebraska Central Administration.
Congratulations, Connor. It's my understanding in visiting with Chancellor Bennett before the meeting that he would like to just recognize someone who's going to be retiring soon.
Thank you, Mr. President, and members of the Board of Regents. Good morning to each of you. It is an honor for me this morning to recognize a distinguished member of our university community upon the occasion of her retirement at the end of this month. This will be her final board meeting. I'd like to ask Kathy Ankerson if she would please rise and remain standing. Kathy's career as an architect, designer, and administrator includes 35 years in higher education, with the last 24 of those years at the University of Nebraska, Lincoln. She has served as Executive Vice Chancellor since January of 2022. She is also a tenured professor of interior design. Previously, Kathy served as Dean of the College of Architecture from 2016 to 2022 and Professor and Associate Dean from 1996 to 2011. She held additional academic appointments at Radford University and Washington State University, as well as serving as a professor and head of interior architecture and product design at Kansas State University. Since my arrival at UNL, Kathy has been a trusted colleague and provided wise counsel to me. Her dedication to the university is evident of how hard she works on behalf of our university, and it's clear that she has a heart for UNL students, faculty, and staff. Kathy, we all wish you well in your retirement, and I'm surely going to miss you being right down the hall from me. Congratulations.
Lastly, if I may, I'd like to recognize Stacia Palzer, our General Counsel and Interim Corporate Board Secretary. This will be her last meeting with us as well. She's moving on at the first of the year. And so, Stacia, thank you for so much for everything you've done. I know she was a huge help to the board when we were searching for a new president, and she's put in a lot of overtime, so to speak, working 2 jobs basically for the last 6 months or 8 months. I can't remember how long it's been, but 8. Okay, but
But who's counting?
Yeah.
but thank you for your service, Stacia.
Thank you.
While our kudos guests are welcome to stay for the balance of our meeting, we understand if you would prefer to pursue other plans for the day. If that's the case, we'll take a moment to allow you to exit with your families at this time. Before we move to the core of our meeting, I'd like to recognize the fellows from the NU Developing Excellence in Academic Leaders, or NU DEAL program, who are observing our meeting today. Thank you for being here. If you'd all please like to stand and be acknowledged, we'd like to wish you well. I'll now turn it over to President Gold to make a few remarks.
Well, thank you. And before I get into my more formal remarks, I too would like to extend my very best wishes to Kathy and to Stacia, extend a tremendous amount of heartfelt gratitude. We will miss you both greatly. We will always leave the light on, and I wish you the very best and Godspeed in your journey. Members of the board and guests, over the last few months, many have heard me speak frequently about the odyssey to the extraordinary, the Homeric journey on which we've embarked as a university, an odyssey powered by longstanding excellence, sustainable public and private partnerships, and a vision for a vision for sustainability, and a vision for a truly inspiring future. After more than a decade of thoughtful discussions with students, faculty, and staff across the University of Nebraska system, and after visits with partners, alumni, and Nebraskans all over the state, particularly and most recently through the lens as your university president. We know what Nebraskans want, and indeed, we know what Nebraskans expect from your university. You want extraordinary activities of this great university. You want an accessible and affordable education for your children and for your grandchildren. You want a robust and effective statewide extension platform. You want a prepared workforce in critical areas, including broadly across the technology, agriculture, and across the rural and urban health and healthcare communities of our state. And you have not been shy about expressing that you want a bowl game, and this year, a conference championship with volleyball. And I am incredibly proud of our student athletes, our coaches, our trainers, across all of our campuses that have made that happen. And by the way, on that subject, later today, myself and two of our student regents will be traveling to Indianapolis to participate in the football championship playoff. Now, you may wonder why that might be, but over the last several months, there has been a national competition among and between the Big Ten schools at a time of a crisis in blood donation to which of the academic programs, which of the schools in the Big Ten, and by the way, there are 18. I guess they can't count. That's the new math. Maybe they should talk to Dr. Umbach about that. But we have won that contest. And just to give you an idea by how much we have won that contest, there were a total of 58,815 lives that were saved across the entire Big Ten. We had 3,928 donors. The next highest school, which was a small institution in Madison, had 1,990 donors, followed by another small institution in Ann Arbor that had 1,929 donors. That means that among and between the Big Ten Conference members, the University of Nebraska Lincoln campus, our student athletes, staff, trainers, and coaches, and so many others, donated more than 20% of the total blood products that were derived as a result of this. And as a recovering pediatric heart surgeon who depended upon blood products every single day in the operating room, day after day after day, I can tell you the impact of this is huge. And so as a result of that, tomorrow on national television, I will gratefully receive a check for $1 million from the Abbott Corporation to recognize this, which will be directly invested in student services here on the Lincoln campus. So congrats, Rodney, and the whole. There's always next year, right? So as a result of these travels across our state, we certainly know where our greatest strengths are. We know and have a pretty good idea of where our challenges and opportunities are as well. And over the last months, we together have begun building a roadmap to get us from the excellent institution that we are today to one that is truly extraordinary, one that embraces and creates the future of public higher education. That roadmap is in the form of a bold strategic plan. Just before the Thanksgiving holidays, we shared an email with faculty, staff, and students asking each of them to take part in what will be an extremely collaborative strategic planning process. This plan will be built upon 5 foundational pillars. First, extraordinary teaching and learning, advancing innovative, inclusive, and impactful educational experiences for all students. Secondly, extraordinary research and creative activity, fostering discovery and innovation that addresses critical challenges and unlocks new opportunities. Third, extraordinary partnerships and engagement, creating impact across the state, the nation, and the world that results in positive rural and urban outcomes. Fourth, an extraordinary culture and environment, cultivating a supportive and dynamic community where every individual can and will thrive. And then fifth, and finally, extraordinary stewardship and effectiveness. That means leveraging our resources wisely to achieve sustainable, far-reaching, and endurable impact. These 5 pillars will guide not only each of our campuses, our institutes, and centers of excellence, but also each of our departments, academic programs, and our partnerships. Every member of our university community, faculty, staff, students, alumni, stakeholders, philanthropists, and of course the members of our Board of Regents has an essential role in helping to shape and to build upon this foundation. This plan will also build upon some of the momentum that we're already seeing across the University of Nebraska system. Collectively, we have made it a goal of the University of Nebraska to achieve the very highest standards of academic excellence, to hopefully, potentially, once again be invited as a member of the prestigious Association of American Universities. And that early steps have been taken. The first step has been beginning to report research expenditures from the Lincoln campus, the Med Center campus, together with the President's office, and one of the flagship universities that was connected. We are undertaking ongoing work to understand potential accreditation pathways, to tighten the combined reporting and recognition of the far-reaching excellence of our campuses and our journey into the future. As just one example, last year in 2023, research expenditures for the University of Nebraska Lincoln, the Med Center, and the University of Nebraska Office of the President Institutes were reported to the National Science Foundation in aggregated form for the first time. We learned just last week that the University of Nebraska Office of the President, our Lincoln campus and Med Center campuses together ranked 55th overall in the United States in total research expenditures for 2023, with total expenditures exceeding $619 million. This total ranks Nebraska 46th among the 71 AAU members and 29th among the public AAU members. And by the way, the total federal expenditures for the University of Nebraska Med Center in 2023 were up over 13% over the previous year, and the numbers for this year appear to be increasing at least the same rate, if not more so. Our research momentum would not be possible without strong partnerships locally, nationally, and globally. And I could point to hundreds of examples of incredible work that made possible through these strong strategic partnerships. But today I'd like to highlight just one. Just a year ago, this board approved moving forward with planning for an infectious disease air transport facility at UNMC as a key part of our military training partnerships, of which we have many. We are now in the planning phase for this $20 million facility, which builds upon an existing partnership with the United States Air Force School of Aerospace Medicine, better known as USAF-SAM. This project will establish a biocontainment patient transport training facility and effectively care for patients with high-consequence infectious diseases, and it will be the only one like it to improve the outcomes for patients exposed to devastating disease and a tremendous asset for national security and global health. And I can tell you, I spent 2 days in Washington, D.C. earlier this week, and the affirmation of this role, particularly with all of the geopolitical conflicts that are going on worldwide, has never been more important. Another step that we have already taken in our odyssey to the extraordinary is our expansion of the Presidential Scholars Program. Started with an entering class just this last fall, and beginning in the fall of 2025, the University of Nebraska will provide a full-ride academic scholarship plus a $5,000 stipend to every Nebraska high school senior who scores a perfect 36 on the ACT, as well as, underscore this, as well as to a number of high-achieving students who have scored between 32 and 35 on the ACT. The spots for students who score 32 to 35 will be awarded through a competitive application process, and I have already heard from many bright and hardworking Nebraska high school seniors who fill my inbox on a daily basis who are eager to apply. In all, we will welcome a cohort of 50 presidential scholars to the NU campuses this fall. These are 50 students who will hopefully begin their careers in our university system, start their families here, and eventually become the future leaders of the state of Nebraska. At the same time, we are continuing to work to grow enrollment across all of our programs and campuses. Our work to grow our research programs, our partnerships, our recruitment and enrollment efforts, and our ideas about what is possible when we dream big will contribute to another kind of growth too, and that's sustainable economic growth for Nebraska. Just earlier today, you heard the first version of the report from Dr. Paul Umbach. Paul co-founded the Tripp Umbach firm in Pittsburgh in 1990 with Simon Tripp, grew up here in the state of Nebraska, and currently serves as the sole owner overseeing a skilled team that works in multiple areas. Paul has centered his life work on transforming ideas into action to create growth and to improve lives. We heard his message loud and clear that the University of Nebraska is a critically important and rapidly growing economic force in our state. It's a major contributor to our workforce, and the ripples it creates each year further much more than we can ever realize, as we learned from Dr. Kent and from so many others. And as we design our strategic plan, we have to examine how we can make these ripples reach further and deeper across our state as an exemplar to our nation and as a leader globally. In our journey from the excellent to the extraordinary, the University of Nebraska's impact will grow like ripples in a pond, ever-expanding ripples on our research and creative activity, our partnerships, our enrollment, and our community impact. And as all of these grow, these ripples will grow as well. Our work will impact more students, more alumni, more communities in Nebraska, across the United States, and frankly around the world. The advancements that begin as ideas in our laboratories and in our classrooms truly save lives. They improve the sustainability of our food and water supply, safeguard our national security, and make Nebraska a better place to work, to live, and to raise a family. Regent Schaefer, I thank you for the opportunity to provide these updates. I'm more than willing to answer any questions, and I turn the program back to you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions for President Gold on his comments? Having none, we'll move on to the public comment portion of today's meeting. The standing rules of the board provide that any person or persons may appear and address the Board of Regents on items that are not on the agenda, so long as the individual has provided the corporation secretary with at least 24 hours notice. We were contacted by two individuals wishing to speak on a topic that is not on today's agenda. Would Renata Valquir Chavez please come to the podium? You will have 3 minutes to address the board. Okay, we'll move on. The second person that was listed was Angela Cooper. Would you please come forward to the podium? You will have 3 minutes.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Angela Cooper. I'm a lifelong Nebraskan. I'm a University of Nebraska graduate. I'm also a proud 4-H'er, a beneficiary of the Extension program. I am a business owner, and I'm a former vice president who spent 20 plus years at one of our state's largest employers. And most importantly, I'm the mom of 2 brilliant and beautiful teenagers here in Nebraska. I'm here today because I'm deeply concerned about the decision to close the University of Nebraska-Lincoln Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Office and to reduce the support for DEI across the campuses. This decision sets our state back when we desperately need to move forward. But it's not too late to change course as we think about doubling down on our investment that we've been talking about this morning in keeping and retaining talent here in Nebraska. I've spent 10 years plus leading diversity, equity, and inclusion work across Nebraska, partnering with organizations ranging from K-12 schools, colleges and universities, nonprofits, and some of our most prominent Fortune 500 companies in the state. One thing I've learned is this: diversity, equity, and inclusion are widely misunderstood concepts. Eliminating DEI without a full understanding of its purpose will create serious, long-term consequences for our state. Let me clarify what DEI is really about and why it's essential for Nebraska. Diversity means understanding, caring about, and meeting the needs of the people we exist to serve. Generation Z, who is comprised of folks ages 12 to 27 right now, is nearly 50% people of color, and 1 in 5 identify as LGBTQ+. Generation Alpha, even younger, is the most diverse generation in history, the first without a white majority. Our communities are changing rapidly. Why would we dismantle programs that help us prepare for this future and support our emerging state leaders? Equity is about fairness. It means we think it's important to give everyone a fair chance to succeed. It recognizes that we all have different circumstances, and it's about removing barriers that stand in the way of us achieving our full potential. We all want that, and we all deserve that fairness. Inclusion means creating a sense of community where people feel valued and they want to stay. We've been talking about that this morning. It sends a clear message that says you belong here and you matter. And inclusion creates communities and environments that people want to be a part of and stay in. All of us here know that Nebraska is facing challenges with population decline and workforce shortages. We cannot deny the brain drain problem, which data has shown year over year is worsening as more and more college-educated youth are leaving our state. What message does the retreat from DEI send? And can we afford to send a message that Nebraska is not a welcoming place for everyone? DEI isn't about politics, it's about people. And supporting DEI is not just the right thing to do, it's a strategic necessity for the future of our university and the future of our state. I urge the board and all the leaders at the University of Nebraska system to reconsider its stance on DEI, to recommit to this work, and to ensure that Nebraska is a truly extraordinary place where all of us can thrive. Thank you.
The standing rules further provide that anyone desiring to speak concerning an item on the agenda for this meeting, regardless of notice, may do so. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board on a topic that is part of today's agenda? If so, please come forward, identify yourself, and complete the sign-in sheet before you leave. You will have 3 minutes to address the board. There being no other persons wishing to make comment at this time, I now declare the opportunity for public comment closed. It is now time to consider the consent agenda. The consent agenda, as is indicated by its name, is moved and voted on as a group of action items as opposed to the administrative agenda, where items are considered and discussed individually. With that said, unless one of my colleagues on the board wishes to consider any of these items in the administrative agenda separately, I would invite a motion to approve the consent agenda at this time.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Regent Herbin?
Yes.
Regent Schroeder?
Yes.
Regent Adidam?
Yes.
Regent Devaraju?
Yes.
Regent O'Connor?
Yes.
Regent Schaefer?
Yes.
Regent Shear?
Yes.
Regent Stark?
Yes.
Regent Whites?
Yes.
Regent Wilmot? Regent Claire? Regent Kenny?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. I'd now like to ask President Gold to walk us through the items on today's administrative agenda.
Thank you, Regent Schaefer. Item 11A1 seeks your approval to eliminate the undergraduate certificate in meat culinology administered by the Department of Animal Science in the College of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources at UNL. This undergraduate certificate in meat culinology did not attract students as intended when it was activated in the fall of 2023. Currently, there are no students in the program, and there is an existing minor in meat science that supports students who have interest in this discipline. This item was reviewed by the Academic Affairs Committee, and I recommend it to you for approval today.
Is there a motion to approve item 11A1?
So moved.
Second, anywhere? Second. Okay. Is there any discussion? Having none, please call the roll.
Regent Schroeder? Yes. Regent Adidam? Regent Devaraju?
Yes.
Regent Herbin?
Yes.
Regent Schaefer?
Yes.
Regent Shear?
Yes.
Regent Stark?
Yes.
Regent Whites?
Yes.
Regent Wilmot?
Yes.
Regent Clare? Regent Kenny?
Yes.
Regent O'Connor? The motion passes.
Item 11.8.2 seeks your approval to eliminate the undergraduate certificate in civic engagement administered on behalf of the 8 undergraduate colleges by the administrative area of undergraduate education programs, also at UNL. Although initial student interest in the multi-college certificate seemed promising, enrollments were lower than expected. The program attempted to restructure, but was ultimately inactivated in the fall of 2023 when that was not successful. Currently, no student is enrolled in the certificate program, and student interest in this area can, in the future, be best accommodated through discipline-specific offerings, such as the newly approved Social Entrepreneurship Certificate. This item also was reviewed by the Academic Affairs Committee, and I recommend it to you for your approval.
Is there a motion to approve agenda item 11A2?
So moved.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Regent Adidam?
Yes.
Regent Devaraju? Regent Herbin?
Yes.
Regent Schroeder? Regent Shear?
Yes.
Regent Stark?
Yes.
Regent Whites?
Yes.
Regent Wilmot?
Yes.
Regent Clare? Regent Kenny?
Yes.
Regent O'Connor? Regent Schaefer?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Item 11.8.3 seeks your approval to establish a Master of Science degree in Healthcare Logistics and Supply Chain Management to be administered by the College of Business Administration's Department of Management at the University of Nebraska at Omaha campus. The proposed online 30-credit-hour Master of Science degree uses existing courses from the UNO College of Business and the UNMC College of Public Health. The recent pandemic and other outbreaks, natural disasters, and others have highlighted the need for efficient healthcare supply chains and the need for individuals with specialized skills to manage them. The University of Nebraska will be one of the first to market in this field of growing interest and increasing demand. No additional financial resources are needed to start this program. Additional faculty will only be added if demand exceeds existing instructional capabilities. This item was also reviewed by the Academic Affairs Committee, and I recommend it to you for your approval today.
Is there a motion to approve agenda item 11A3?
So move.
Discussion? I have a question that's somewhat, not directly related, but somewhat when it comes to healthcare and what we provide at the Med Center and in our business colleges, do we have anything for administrators, a master's degree program of that nature?
We have several programs across our business colleges, and actually there's leadership programs in the College of Public Health as well. I don't know if any of our chancellors would want to comment on that.
Yeah, we have a master's in healthcare administration, which is actually the program that's partnering with UNO for the supply chain program.
So to obtain that master's in hospital or healthcare administration, the students would work on both campuses then?
So
UNMC and UNO? Is that?
yeah,
my
well, right
understanding?
now the MHA is it's a UNMC program, but for the master's in supply chain that's being proposed, they would take some classes from the MHA program rather than trying to recreate. So it's a partnership between the two schools.
All right, thank you. Any other questions?
Not necessarily a question, but if President Gold could just give a brief synopsis. I think sometimes we forget, because we do this on a routine basis where we're eliminating or possibly starting a program. When we're eliminating something, a lot of times it's not because we don't think it's still a good product. It's that the lack of enrollment in those issues, as well as the certification, makes us review those classes across the university system. And those that have not shown any use over a period of whatever time, and we've not been able to prove the enrollment, basically we're forced to try to find other offerings that support in student interest. But just think it's important to make sure that people understand it's just not something that we unilaterally decide that we want to throw.
Well, there are standing requirements that exist through the Coordinating Commission of Expectations of Minimal Enrollment at the undergraduate, master's, and doctoral levels that we go through a logistical review on a cyclical basis completely to comply with the Coordinating Commission's requirements. However, over the last several years, Dr. Jackson and I and our chief academic officers have gone through every single undergraduate, certificate, master's, and doctoral level program at the University of System, have identified areas of overlap. We've identified areas of falling or low enrollment, and it's always driven by the question of how to best serve the demand signals from our students. Very often what we find is that the students want another major or concentration for that certificate, but want that expertise built into it. So as you've heard in the two programs that we eliminated today, we took those competencies and we actually wove them into other degree programs and then eliminated the program itself because the interest in those specific majors was very low to non-existent. So this is just the appropriate responsiveness of the academic part of the university to attempt to meet the demands of the community. And if the programs we put together, as well-intentioned as they may be, don't succeed in doing that, we need to be thoughtful and responsive and either combine or eliminate them.
Speaking of meeting the demands of the communities and state, what's holding us back from producing more doctors and MDs? It's our communities across the state. What's the number one thing that holds us back from having more?
Well, there are many different aspects of what it takes to increase enrollment in medical schools in the United States. Having spent a decade leading the board of the accrediting body, the LCME, I've lived that up front and personal. It is not the number of classrooms, lockers, or even the number of qualified faculty. The single largest restriction, certainly that we face, but is present across the United States, are actually clinical binding sites. And what Dr. Kent would tell you is that the rotations in pediatrics and obstetrics and in so many other areas are limited to the number of learners that can actually participate in those sites. And anything that we could do to increase hospital participation. And that is why the expansion of the health science education complex in Kearney is so critically important, because not only are we building a beautiful building and recruiting remarkable faculty, but we've developed thoughtful partnerships with many of the hospital systems around that community to provide the critically important clinical learning environment in rural Nebraska, to do everything we can to attempt to recruit and retain those individuals in clinical practices in rural Nebraska. Our first experiences, by the way, with the facilities that opened in 2015 demonstrated that 85% of the students that enrolled in those programs in rural Nebraska in Kearney stayed in rural Nebraska. That's an astoundingly high number. I can only hope that the next phase, which will bring us up to a total of 645 students in those combined facilities, will be as successful. So if you know a hospital administrator, you can recommend to them that they increase the number of health profession student rotations in their system.
As chair of the Health Affairs Committee, Dr. Gold and I have talked about trying to add 100 medical students. We have 135 medical students in each class, and we add 100. In order to do that, we need clinical settings. And to do that, it's expansive. And we have to grow and expand. And we're short 1,700 nurses next year in the state, 1,700. And the number of doctors we're looking at, particularly in rural areas, is pretty scary. So we're hard at it and trying to expand these clinical settings. And I think that's important to share with some of our colleagues who perhaps don't understand how that's important in terms of having more medical students. You got to have those settings. That means expanding and spending more money.
It is, you know, I can just make one other point, Regent Schaefer, and that is we've talked a lot at the board level and the committee level about the significance of Project Health, the major impact of the expanding the health science education clinical training facilities on the Omaha campus. One of the largest impacts of that long term will be the ability to increase the nursing class, the medical class, many of the allied health professions and others by between 25 and 40% due to increased clinical training facilities. That is a very, very important foundational reason that the university is so strongly supporting this.
Okay, anyone else? Please call the roll.
Regent Devaraju.
Yes.
Regent Herbin.
Yes.
Regent Schroeder. Regent Adidam.
Yes.
Regent Stark.
Yes.
Regent Whites.
Yes.
Regent Wilmot.
Yes.
Regent Clare. Regent Kenny.
Yes.
Regent O'Connor. Regent Schaefer.
Yes.
Regent Shear.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. Item 11B1, the first item on the Business and Finance agenda, seeks your approval to authorize an agreement to replace outdated Husker Vision production equipment as part of their relocation within Memorial Stadium. This upgrade will equip Husker Vision with the latest 4K UHD equipment and replace the current end-of-life HD production facility while preparing Husker Vision for future LED video board upgrades. Nebraska Athletics competitively bid these upgrades and requests approval to enter into a contract with A.R. Beck Associates Incorporated. The term length of this contract is 11 months with a total of $6,499,949. This item was reviewed by the Business and Finance Committee, and I recommend it to you for your approval.
Is there a motion to approve agenda item 11B1?
So move.
Second.
Two of them right there. Okay. Discussion.
I had an opportunity to tour that facility recently, a couple weeks ago. I was shocked at how small of a space Husker Vision is for the work they do. Most importantly and most impressive is they have 52 students that they train here. My daughter got 4 years there, got a master's degree, was a product of that program. I think this is money that is extremely well spent, and the space is really needed. So I'm happy to see this happen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Twofold. One, we talk about an update. Those that buy technology, I don't care if it's an iPad or a phone or whatever, know that about as soon as the phone goes in your pocket or the computer gets plugged in, it's already out of date. These facilities, these units, equipment, most of which are far more than 20 years old, not been updated. Say that we're using old technology would be, put it mildly. It truly is a necessity. And I think the second point as well that wasn't stated is these funds are coming from the athletic department to take care of the expenses. This is not coming from direct university dollars or student dollars or tuition dollars. It's
Regent Clare. Regent Kenny.
The other thing I was just going to add to piggyback on that is this allows us to do more things in the future that we haven't been able to do. And you know, to both those comments, the technology will be changing as fast as we get this done. So he's pretty excited about it.
Any other comments? Okay, please call the roll.
Regent Herbin.
Yes.
Regent Schroeder.
Yes.
Regent Adidam.
Yes.
Regent Devaraju. Regent Whites. Wilmot.
Yes.
Regent Clare. Regent Kenny.
Yes.
Regent O'Connor.
Yes.
Regent Schaefer.
Yes.
Regent Shear.
yes.
Regent Stark.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. Item 11B2 seeks your approval of the acquisition of real properties at 805 West 27th Street 811 West 27th Street, 813 West 27th Street, 817 West 27th Street, 821 West 27th Street in Kearney, Nebraska, and the disposal of real property at 1601 University Drive, also in Kearney, Nebraska. The aging housing at University Residence North, located at 1601 University Drive, has been removed. University of Nebraska at Kearney does not own adjacent land at this location, and the future development of this property is not included in UNK's facilities development plan. Therefore, UNK proposes to dispose of this property and exchange it for real property located adjacent to the UNK Greek housing facilities approved by the Board of Regents here on February 12th of 2021. The acquisition of the exchange property by UNK will allow for future development of student parking as identified in the facilities development plan. Development will replace parking spaces removed because of construction of the Bess Furman Armstrong Hall and will also allow for increased green space between Martin and Armstrong Hall. In consideration for a parking license agreement to be provided to UNK at no cost for a term of 50 years, UNK will lease back the exchange property to the current owner for a period of 5 years. This item, with all of its complexities, was reviewed by the Business and Finance Committee, and I recommend it to you for your approval.
Is there a motion to approve agenda item 11B2?
Make it.
Discussion?
I'll just say, I know a lot of students are very excited about this. I think the number one issue that students come to me about is parking, and Nicole probably had a similar experience when she was student body president. But yeah, all the students are excited about this. Parking is definitely needed right off this east end of campus. It'll contribute to campus safety. Right now we have many students parking 3 blocks off campus in areas that are not well lit in Kearney. Also note that yesterday I was able to talk with some students who are involved with the St. Teresa Calcutta Newman Center, who this property is being acquired from, and they're very excited about this deal as well.
Chancellor?
Yes, Regent Schroeder makes the clear points of mutual benefit or a win-win situation with regard to this exchange. Excuse me, and indeed the safety features are important in this area that will be vacated with the removal of the 5 homes. Instead of people parking along the streets in a dimly lit area, it'll be much better protected. It'll be a safer area. And in fact, the Newman Center, which has been in temporary quarters for about 50 years, will now have a home in the center of campus in a way that will serve those students far. Thank you.
Regent Whites.
As I recall, several years ago, we did a trade at University of Kearney to move property that we wanted to build an education addition on, and we traded property with property that was not needed, and that trade went very smoothly. And I think seeing us do that kind of work where we cooperate with the community and we figure out what's best for both is a very positive action on our part. And I will also tell you that in my early study of the university, I discovered that the first use of the gas that they blow at rioters was at UNL, and it was used after World War II, and all the people came back to go for educational benefits from their service. And there was a riot in the parking lot about parking. And so I think, we take parking for granted, but it's a critical issue, even back to World War II. So.
The other thing I'd like to think back is when we built the student housing there, the fraternities and sororities, those spots came right out of the parking lot next to the union. So, there was a major loss in parking at that time. So, this kind of adds to that or helps that out.
Anyone else? Please call the roll.
Regent Schroeder.
Yes.
Regent Adidam.
Yes.
Regent Devaraju,
Yes.
Regent Herbin,
Yes.
Regent Wilmot,
Yes.
Regent Claire, Regent Penny,
Yes.
Regent O'Connor, Regent Schaefer, Regent Shear,
Yes.
Regent Stark,
Yes.
Regent Whites.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Item 11B3 seeks your approval to authorize the execution of the Second Amendment to the Guaranteed Maximum Price Contract for the UNMC Residence Hall project previously approved by this board. The Residence Hall project includes the use of a Construction Manager at Risk, or CMR, delivery method. Hausman Construction was selected as the CMR through a competitive, qualification-based selection process in accordance with all Board of Regents policy. Amendment 1 is $4,628,040, and GMP Amendment 2 would be $50,644,637, with the total being within the Board of Regents approved project budget of $65,942,189. This item was reviewed by the Business and Finance Committee, and I recommend it to you for your approval.
Motion to approve agenda item 11B3.
So move.
Second.
Discussion? Surely we have some discussion on a $65 million project.
I think as we look forward to the day when we can be training more medical staff at UNMC, it seems to me like we're going to need places for those people to be living. And it's kind of a long-term view, and I think it's important that we have that going forward so that when the time comes, there's a place for them to live.
You know, over my decade of serving as the University of Nebraska Medical Center Chancellor, the demand signal for student housing and resident housing has been huge. The challenge has been the ability to find the space, and B, deliver it at an affordable price. And I think this project, based upon extensive student survey work that we've done, accomplishes both of those things. It's on campus in a safe location and is highly affordable. Davies, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I just want to echo that. Clearly, this is the number one request from students. We have a lot of out-of-state students. We have international students who, when they come, have to figure out where to stay. And that's a real encumbrance in their ability to know where's a safe area, what's not. And I think this is actually just the beginning because it's only 300 units. We know the demand signal is much higher. So we're just starting with this. And as we've developed the Med Center and the areas around it, it's pretty clear that getting affordable housing is a major challenge for our students. So if we want to keep getting these students to come to us, we truly have to make sure we meet their needs as far as accommodation is concerned, which is true actually for across the state. As we go across all our communities, we're asking the same question as to how we can make sure there's safe, affordable housing.
I agree with those comments. I know when I joined the board 12 years ago, I was somewhat surprised at the lack of housing at the UNO campus and the fact hardly any on the med. So I think this is very well needed and great investment. It's not a $65 million spend, it's an investment. The Med Center in our community, and as we talk about increasing healthcare professionals, whether it's doctors, nurses, or technicians, I think this is a great.
Well, this will be only for students, correct?
Yes.
Chair, I actually echo your sentiment about this. 3 years in a row, UNO already has a waiting list for our student. We're currently about 2,400 beds on UNO campus. I agree with Chancellor Davis about the discussion in the Omaha community. The cost of attendance is a very crucial factor, impacted by the cost of accommodation on campus in Omaha. So it is actually, I applaud with the aspiration to build more beds for our medical profession, and eventually, UNO very likely will bring it back to this board and ask for some guidance on the housing for UNO students too. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other comments?
I'd just like to echo what Dr. Davies and Dr. Gold said. Students have been asking for student housing for a long time. They tell us at our town halls. That and parking were the two main things that we heard this last year. And I'd also like to say that this is a great step, an encouraging step from our administration to help shield us from the rapidly increasing rent prices around the Med Center, since it is such a sought-after area to stay in, and students simply can't afford those really, really high rates. So this is a way to shield them from that, protect them from that a bit, especially if they don't have cars and they want to be walkable.
Thank you. Anyone else? Please call the roll.
Regent Adidam?
Yes.
Regent Devaraju?
Yes.
Regent Herbin?
Yes.
Regent Schroeder? Regent Clare? Regent Kenny?
Yes.
Regent O'Connor? Regent Schaefer?
Yes.
Regent Shear?
Yes.
Regent Stark?
Yes.
Regent Whites?
Yes.
Regent Wilmot?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you, Regent Schaefer, and I will now turn it over to you for discussion of the remaining executive committee items.
Okay. Item 11C1 seeks your approval to amend Section 1.3 of the bylaws of the Board of Regents of the University of Nebraska and Section 1.2 of the Standing Rules of the Board of Regents. In order to provide continuity of leadership within the Board of Regents, the proposed amendments to Section 1.3 of the bylaws of the Board of Regents of the University of Nebraska and Section 1.2 of the Standing Rules of the Board of Regents would extend the term of the chairperson and vice chairperson of the board to 2 years. The proposed amendment to the standing rules would also remove the automatic succession of the vice chairperson to the office of chairperson at the end of such term. Is there a motion to approve item 11C1?
I'll make it.
Second.
Okay, as far as discussion, I would just lead with the fact that, first of all, I want to make it very clear, I'm not running for chair again. This is not anything to extend my term as being the chair. So there'll be a new chair come February. So I want to make that clear. But a couple things just in dealing with folks from the last 12 years of being on the board. I know it seems like every president had mentioned that it'd be helpful to have 2-year terms, to have a little continuity, especially as we work through the budget process. Our legislature works on a 2-year biennium with 2-year committees and 2-year leadership positions. So it'd create a little continuity for someone to work with whoever the chair of the appropriations is, as well as the governor's office and the president. So those are some considerations that go into this as far as, why is it being presented now? Is there ever a good time to talk about these things, especially when we can do it all together, all 8 of us? And so whether this matter passes, fails, or is tabled, I just want to get it out there so we can at least have the discussion. So.
Sure.
Regent Shear?
Thank you. I will support this. I think it does make sense to have 2-year terms, especially for continuity purposes. When interact so much in the legislature, also on a 2-year basis. I had some experience with that earlier. Helps to have that continuity when you're dealing with those folks that are in positions for a 2-year period. It takes a little while to build those relationships, and as you move forward, to have to start rebuilding those every year, I think is a waste of time and effort that we could be utilizing to benefit the university system from a leadership basis. I think this great benefit for us publicly and as well the governor's office and the legislature to try to work forward and continue their necessary support of higher education.
Okay, Regent Whites?
Yeah, I understand that sort of thinking. I think when you said, is there a right time to do this? I think this is not the right time to do this because we are about to do an entire review of our bylaws as regents and our leadership structure and how we go about our business. And I think doing this before we meet again in February doesn't make a lot of sense to me to make a big change in structure, which this really is. And then 6 months later, we have a whole new structural plan that we've worked through our bylaws and our charter to make sure we're working effectively and efficiently. So while this may be a good idea and it may resurface again as we review our bylaws, I feel like this is not the right time to be doing this. It's just a matter of, can we be patient enough? I think the other thing I want to say about this is the role of the vice chair, basically, in my mind, has been to learn from watching the chair, shadowing the chair, going with meetings with the chair, and building those relationships in advance of the year that they will move forward to be chair. So I think the other thing it offers is an opportunity for the variety of leadership styles that we all see around the Board of Regents, and we all have our own strengths and weaknesses. And I think it's important that, especially having chaired committees and having had opportunities to work with a variety of state senators, we do have other opportunities to get to know the unicameral and to talk to them about issues related to the university. So I feel like this isn't necessarily a terrible idea. I think it changes when we change drop a vice chair or whatever it is we do with that. But I also think we've got 6-year terms, and you put someone on as a chair of the board for 2 years, that means maybe you get, if you have a group of 8, you may have three chair opportunities available to the board. So there are some issues about this. I felt like we as a board did not discuss this change before it was proposed. And I feel like we haven't had a chance to really examine how this structure would change some of the other structures of our leadership and our committees. And we've added a committee and a working group in the last 6 months. And we need time to go back and say, how does this all fit together? How do we have a structure that works efficiently and effectively? And I think it is critical that we work with the unicameral. And I know we have the dinner once a year with the unicameral, and that's a really good thing. But I think there are opportunities that we can be encouraged to do in terms of individual work as regents to develop those relationships. And I think the vice chair opportunity could be improved by some identified ways in which a vice chair, at least until we make whatever changes we make in the renewing of our bylaws and our charter. So I think this is premature as an idea, and I'm willing to look at it again after we do this total review and talk about it again. But I don't feel prepared at all to make a change like this before we're about to change, potentially change bylaws and charter. So I'm very much against this idea right now. It's a timing piece. It's not necessarily saying it's a bad idea.
Thank you. Good comments. Regent Kinney.
I was just going to say that when I first heard about this is when Governor Pillen was on this board, and he talked about that, and we've talked about it a lot since then. And as I look back at my time as president, I mean, it was also the time of COVID, but by the time you get done with your first year, you know, stuff like the legislature, the foundation, you just start to know those people, and then you switch again. So, you know, that's why I'm for it. I think leadership from this room will be a lot better that way. And some of the other comments that have been made are obviously true too. You need to work on who's going to be next, and allow them to learn some of the things that you do as you're learning with trying to take a drink out of a fire hose when you first step into the role.
Okay. Regent O'Connor.
I'm a no vote on this item, and I have 2 objections to it. The first one is procedural, and the second one is substantive. Procedurally, this was brought to the floor by the executive committee without consultation with other board. We recently met as a board for a retreat and had conversations about our committee structures. Those conversations so far have been productive, but they are not finished, and bringing this item forward right now before we finished our study on structures and leadership seems premature. As to the substance of the issue, the main justification that I've heard for changing the chair from 1 year to 2 is that it puts the cycle of the chair on the same rotation as unicameral appropriation, allowing that same regent to gather knowledge, build relationships, and prepare to testify. However, that's not what the role of the chair is. Per our bylaws and our rules, the role of the chair is to lead meetings and critical information between the president and the remainder of the board. And this is an extremely important position that requires a lot of time and skill. I think, I've heard our current chair say that, he's taken a lot of time away from his family, and that, that's hard. It's a very hard. And we've already had some pretty serious communication last couple of years that we're working out on a board, but I don't see that improving by lengthening the term of chair. If we want continuity when it comes to appropriations, we can accomplish that by selecting a regent to represent us through the appropriation cycle, or maybe allowing a regent to represent us to the foundation and give more opportunities to regents that are asking to get involved, to have leadership opportunities. It's not necessary, and in fact, it's a little puzzling to me that we're changing our leadership structure based on external duties that aren't specifically assigned to the chair, when the chair already has so many internal duties that have been assigned to it and need to be completed. Appointing a regent to testify to the unicameral or to go to the foundation and act as a liaison will also take some of the pressure off of the chair so they can cover their internal duties that are actually assigned to them, will allow more regents the opportunity to get involved in board leadership and better represent all of the state.
Good comments. I believe, though, technically, from a procedural standpoint, I believe it only takes any of the 8 voting board members of the Board of Regents can place.
Sure, but that's not really the tradition that we follow.
I understand that, but
I know,
from
I'm
a
just- I'm
technical
saying.
standpoint, I think it's
You didn't break
proper
the rules.
to
Yes,
bring it.
you did
but-
not break the rules.
Okay,
It's just,
all right.
just procedure.
So substantively, I think that's where different people are going to have different opinions, and that's fine. And that's why we're having this discussion here. So, Regent Wilmot?
Well, I guess for me, as I listen to Paul, et cetera, and I've listened to the student regents sometimes when they say, gee, I only get a year and it's over. And it makes sense to me to have someone in that role for a 2-year period. Really get acquainted with all of those duties, to get acquainted with the rest of the board, because sometimes the membership changes and the student regents change, et cetera, et cetera. But I guess I can see value, and there's been other boards and things that you see this type of a move so that there is continuity. So I would be supportive of this change.
Anyone else? Regent Stark?
I've been blessed to be on the payroll of this university for 32 years, and listening to the discussion today how critically important this university is. We've had a precedent in the past for 30, 40 years of having a 1-year term, and we rotated, and everybody on the board was able to serve. That's your constituents. They have an opportunity to have you represent them. I've heard some very good arguments and discussion, but I only heard them this morning. I haven't heard them before. I'm on the board. There's 8 of us. And so these discussions haven't been shared. I would like to suggest that maybe to delay this until our next board meeting, give us a chance to find out more about this. There's a thing called unintended consequences. And I don't have enough information to go back to my constituents or my donors or the faculty or anybody else and say, hey, here's why we're doing it. I know it's been precedent for a long time, but this is a big change. And if you look at what's happening, the amount of time, you're a pretty good example, the amount of time you had to put in on this. I'm a full-time person. I do nothing else but work on this board. To be a chair is even more duties. And you can burn out pretty darn quick in a given year. So I think we need more assistance for a chair to do this. We need to clarify really what the role of the vice chair is. And I didn't know about all these other things from the university, from legislature, et cetera. I'd like to know more about that. So I would be voting to delay it, so I won't be supporting it today. I may be supporting it in the future, but I want to hear a lot more.
Anyone else? Regent Shear.
Well, I guess I would just make note of the point that in the past, evidently, the president has not done any testing. And I will tell you from my experience, that is a detriment to this board. People that are there that are making the presentation and are very informed and well-intended, but your president and others, your financial people, from the viewpoint of the legislature, are the hired guns. We're the leaders of the legislature, of the region. And I think it does send a much stronger message to have the president of our board be real visible to that legislature, because that's, again, somebody that they should be feeling comfortable with contacting and dealing with. I can't underscore that enough. I mean, every time I have heard the same comments for 8 years, either from the biennial or the update on the second year of legislative term, that when programs come that have board members, regardless if it's bill for something else, when it's just the hired guns, it does not have the impact it would have if those that were on the board itself, they're testifying to that appropriations board. You're more of equals. I can't stress enough that I think we are doing ourselves a disservice by not utilizing ourselves in those capacities.
I have to say you are very accurate, and I know when I was on the State Board of Ed, the chair often went and testified, and that's how it's seen, I think, by the legislature, and I know that's how we felt on that board, because it isn't the hired gun, it's the people that are representing constituents, and they do listen well to that chair.
But this doesn't address the duties of the chair. If you look at the bylaws, there's only 4 things that the chair does. Stick with me. You sign the diplomas, you sign contracts, you run these meetings, and you assign committees. You would need to rewrite, that's not in here, you would need to rewrite the duties of the chair to do these, to accomplish these things, to go testify, etc. So that's not in this provision today. So that's what I'm saying about, it's unintended. I think you need a broader description. You need to change the description of the chair, what the duties of the chair are. That's not in here.
Sure.
Well, I would just simply respond that it doesn't say that the president can't be available to testify. It doesn't preclude them from doing that. And I think from a very logical and experienced basis, I'm telling you, that would be a well-received change. I don't know that you have to necessarily have everything that somebody does in writing. If we go to that extent, Jack, then I would look at the duties of a regent. And in a duty of a regent, nowhere does it say you should attend any community event, work with any public entities, or anything else. It tells you to show up every other month for a meeting. If we all did that, we'd be in a hell of a mess. And for us to not allow or want that type of interaction, to me, seems a loss of the ability of this board and this institution to further our prospective wishes with the legislature and the governor's office.
And before Regent Weiss, one point of clarification, though. The president of the university is Jeff Gold. He's sitting right here. So
president.
When we talk about the president of the board,
chairman of the board.
let's use the term chairman,
Okay.
chair of the board, so that everybody's on the same page. Regent
Okay.
Weiss.
And I really appreciate the experience that you bring from the unicameral to this position as a regent. And I think it's a very important relationship that we have to have. But I think at this point, when we are about to make some major review of how we organize ourselves as a board, how we how we run our meetings, who our leaderships are, what our committee chairs do. All of that is going to be looked at, and it's starting now. So why would we want to do something that isn't completely put together with the details and the sense of, have you considered this? Like, things have come up today that I hadn't thought about and are important to think about. So my objection is not to the idea. My objection is to, we haven't had the opportunity to work through how this board is going to operate going forward. The world is changing so rapidly, and I understand that this idea of continuity is critical, and we don't even have that on our committees. So I think there's a major sort of time for us to pull out our organizational theory heads and say, what's going to make this board operate in an efficient, effective way, doing the kinds of things like you're talking about, being more connected to the unicameral perhaps. The idea of having someone go to the unicameral as a rep from the Board of Regents may come up in when we review the charter. We're starting to do that. So why? I don't understand the push to do this right now. We've done this biennial budget where we have different presidents for a while. We can do it one more year. I don't think it's going to take any more than that to figure out how we're going to change as to how we operate. And I really, I mean, these are important things for us to talk about. And we haven't really, I mean, a brief conversation about possibilities is not an in-depth conversation of what does it mean to be a chair of a committee? What does it mean to be, are we going to have vice chairs? Are we going to have committees, chairs be on the executive committee? There's a lot of opportunity here for us to become an even more powerful, more efficient, more effective board. And I think we need to allow ourselves the chance to review how we're operating now and what are new ways we could operate that would be better. So I'm not saying we will never do this. I am simply saying we don't need to do it at this meeting right now as we're about to review our entire operation. And I think it's really important that people see that we are working very hard to make ourselves the best Board of Regents a university could ask for. And in reviewing in this way, I think we do that. We say, hey, some of these things aren't working very well. Let's figure it out. Communication, collaboration, all those pieces need to be a part of a review of our operation charter bylaws. And I would suggest that we could table this, as I would offer I don't know, it wouldn't be an amendment, but I would like to offer a motion that we table this and that it doesn't go away. It's not being dismissed as a bad thing. It's simply saying we aren't ready. I'm not ready. I will tell you right now as a regent, I am not ready to make a decision like this. And I would hate to see us make these kinds of decisions and 4 months later unmake them again. I think that's really not a confidence builder for our constituents.
If you'll forgive my comment, I teach strategic management. And so as I think about, you're talking about organizational theory and what this means, one of the things that comes to my mind is how much change is the organization capable of, and does it need? If there's a need for more change, and if the organization is capable of it, this is probably a good choice, because you need that continuity. You need to have that sort of like relationship with the leadership and that kind of confidence you can hold that position long enough to pull it off. If the institution isn't ready for that much change, and if it's not needed, then it's good to have the change in leadership. Quite so much change just in one. I know as a faculty senate president, I get 1 year, so it's like, man, you just like kind of get your butt kicked for the first year, and then you hand it off to somebody else for that to happen. I know that can be pretty tough.
Were you a vice chair before you were?
I actually wasn't, but that was because the vice wasn't able to take her term because of some different demands on her workload. And so I kind of got pushed into it. But anyway, that's just one of the ways to think about it.
Yeah, thank you.
So we've been having this discussion for quite some time, back to when Governor Pillen was on the board. I think 2 years ago we had it again, discussion of potentially amending the bylaws to do the 2 terms, and I don't know your reasoning. It was you had brought it forward and then you pulled it. So I mean, this is not a new discussion topic, right? It's been something that we've talked about for quite some time. And I initially, I had said, yes, I'm in favor of the 2-year chair. And then we start talking about the structure issues that we're talking about now with AAU as the goal. We talk about, we've brought up an athletics committee. And what does that mean, and who is that going to govern, and who is, you know, what is our responsibility there, and are there problems if we have governance over 2 D1 athletic programs, and you know, who would we have governance over? And so I think, you know, I want to make this university the absolute best it can be. However, it can't be a ready, fire, aim. It needs to be a situation where we're ready, aim, and then fire. And I think this, with everything that we've got moving right now, structure-wise within the university, structure-wise within, you know, the AAU goal, and structure-wise with regards to who makes up the various committee, and who should be on the executive committee, and who should be on, you know, the chair of the different committees. I just think we need to have further discussion to talk about this as it relates to our overall structure. And Barb, you say in February we talk about this. I don't think that's the time. I think we need to study it and look to come back mid-year after we've had thorough vetting of these issues, because unintended consequences can be negative and can have real ramifications. I don't want to have that. We need to be perfect when we lay out this new structure. We need to be perfect and strive for perfection. And if we're not, we need to table it and come back and vet it further and then go forward with it. And so I apologize to my colleagues, because I was in favor of it 4 years ago, and I was in favor of it 2 years ago, and I was in favor of it again. And then as we start talking about these different things that we're also working on, my mind has changed in that I really think we need to look at the totality of everything before we start, you know, ready, fire, aim. So I would propose tabling this for a period of time until we've had the opportunity to look at our entire overall structure and the governance of the University of Nebraska system, and how we're all going to be, how this whole structure will be put together, including committees. And if there's new athletics committee or healthcare committee, that we figure all this out before we take action and then say, dang, we shouldn't have done it that way. We get the genie's out of the bottle, but we can try to put the genie back in. It ain't going to work. So I'm not going to vote in favor of this.
Regent, sure.
Tim, I appreciate your comments, more so because this has been discussed on more than just today. It has been an idea that's been addressed for a number of years. It almost appears that we are going to eliminate better in seeking the perfection. This process would better align us with those that we need to be aligned with. And for us to wait for a perfect system, which I will tell you right now is we will not reach a perfect system. So for us to talk about what we wanted to make all these vetting, to me, is just another time delay. I'm a business guy. If I find something that I believe is better I'll react to it right away. I'm not going to wait another year or two to see what other people are going to do, because I'm going to try to use it as an advantage. I think this is a clear advantage that we could utilize as a board, and if we choose not to, that's on us. But we can't continue to postpone decisions like this, anything that's controversial, simply because we continue to want more time to do things. We have to start doing something.
I would challenge the premise that this has been discussed, because it was discussed at the executive committee, but some of these arguments I've not heard before. This is new to me. And it may be brought up before with Jim Pillen, but we had a strategic planning meeting recently, and I had a 5-second clip that this was something that was being considered. That's all I've heard of it. So those of us that aren't on the executive committee didn't have that kind of discussion. So this is kind of new to us. That's part of why the delay is here, so we get it right.
I would also like to say, I don't think we're talking about a 2-year process to look at our bylaws and look at our structure. In my time as a regent, I've worked on the Academic Affairs Committee, and I have watched have a new president in place. This is a perfect opportunity for us to say, we have new leadership at the very top of our organization, and this is a perfect time to say, how can we make it better? I'm not saying we'll ever get perfect. I think perfect is damaging to better, because trying to be perfect sometimes gets us, like you said, into delays and nothing ever changes. But I am saying that I trust that the group that's put together to do this is not going to be a year-long process. I don't know, Dr. Gold, you maybe you have a different idea about this, but my sense is there's a lot faster movement now. We learned that from COVID, that we have to make changes in a much more nimble way as an organization in higher ed and all of higher ed. And so I disagree that we're going to be postponing this for 2 years. I've been a regent I just am starting my 2nd term in this next year. But as I watch our process, and I see communication issues that are major, I see the same people in the same roles over and over again. And to me, there's a time and a place for us, especially when we have a new start with a new president, to really improve how we do this and to get at some of the issues that have held us back in the past. And dragging our feet, pushing things forward has been a technique that's been used many times over the time I've even been a regent. I'm not proud of that. I don't like it. I'd much rather have action than talk. But we have got to be the devil's in the details. And I'm telling you, a change like this, there are so many details that this impacts in terms of our entire system that I really disagree that it's going to be a 2-year, we're just going to look at it again in 2 years. I think we've got to move, and we've got to move now, and we have the perfect timing. We have a new president, a new administration, an opportunity to really look at what we're doing. And I'm sorry that may not be fast enough for you. You've been on the board 2 years. I was on 6. 18, I don't know, Tim, what year are you in now? You're like emeritus.
16.
Right. But I really, one of the critical pieces that I've experienced as a regent is a lack of information flow on critically controversial issues. And what happens is it shows up suddenly and we're expected to vote. And I'm not saying it hasn't been brought up. I'm sure we've talked structurally for many years, and we have other players, like the rules around public meetings. And those affect our structure, and we have to figure out how those are going to impact any kind of structural changes we make. So please, I really feel as a regent that this is one of those hills I'm going to die on, because I really believe this is the time. You were right, timing is critical. And I believe right now is the time. We can do it one more year as the biennial budget is developed. And by the time the next round of new biennial budget, we will have in place whatever it is we come up with as a structure. So I know I've spoken a great deal, but this is what I did a master's in public administration and took org theory and have some background in this. And I will say to you, this kind of sudden change, which feels sudden, even though there's been various discussions by different regents at different terms of regents, it has not been a thorough discussion by the current group of regents in an eight-person, full out, let's look at the details. How would this impact this? How does that impact that? How do we not have unintended consequences? And you're right, we can't get the genie back in the bottle if we change it now. And I think that that handicaps what we do in terms of the review of our bylaws. So this is my hill to die on. I will vote no on this, but I also will tell you, I am open to ideas. I think we need to explore more structures. We're a very unusual board because we're elected. You know, other boards get to pick. The governor in most states appoints the Board of Regents for the state public universities, and they can pick the people that fit various slots. That's great. We don't do that. We have the people decide who they want to be on the Board of Regents. And so I think we owe them the duty to do it well and to do it in a way that's efficient, effective, nimble, and creates the best university we can be. It may not be a perfect university, but it can be a better university. And the odyssey towards excellence is a perfect goal. It's a perfect time. How do we fit what we do into a model where we're headed in that direction? So I'm sorry I'm talking so long about this, but I feel very strongly about it. And I've been thinking about it since our retreat and long before. And honestly, I'm going to say no, and I'm going to have a very difficult time as a regent going forward with making these kinds of changes this quickly without the kind of detail that we need to have about what we're doing. Thanks. Thanks for listening.
Regent Shearer.
Barb, I do not take offense with anything that you have brought up. I understand that. Other than I will tell you, if you ever tell me that I should not be involved or be voicing my opinion because I've only been here 2 years and others have been here longer, you will have a problem from this side of the table.
Do that.
No, I am doing it. I'm not going to sit down and let someone tell me to mind myself because I've only been here for a shorter period of time. I've got the floor, Jack. Secondly, matter of protocol or order, Barb did ask for, or made a motion to table it. And I think you probably should have had either a second to vote on that or in her interest, I think we need to stop and let someone second or not second so that we don't have two motions on the floor at the same time.
Well, and I'd spoken with general counsel. It's talked about, but I don't know that it was a formal motion. But would you like to formalize that motion? And if so, please repeat it for.
Okay. Well, first, I am not telling you that you can't speak up at these meetings and tell us about your take on what we're doing. That was not the intent of my conversation. My intent was we have change happening on the Board of Regents every 2 years. And there are different regents, they've had different experiences, and your experience is one that's very critical and very important, and your voice should be heard anytime you want to speak up. And nothing I said was meant to tell you that you can't speak. What I was saying was there are some people that have more continuity as a regent to know how much has been talked about, what's been talked about, all those things. The unfortunate part is we don't have records. We don't have the kind of communication that we need to even go back and review those. So I absolutely tell you, Jim, I have been impressed with some of the ideas you've brought to this board since you've come on. I think the presidential search structure was such a improvement over the previous presidential search structures. So I am not wanting you to feel like I need you to be quiet. I think I've learned so much in 6 years that I'm a much better, different regent than I was my first 2 years. But that doesn't mean I couldn't talk, and I did. And I will continue to, and you should too. And so should Kathy, who's 2 years out, and so should the 18 or 20 or 50 years that Tim's been on. But I want to say that this is really an issue that has been talked about in these kind of quick little, here's a thought, kind of ways, and then it shows up without any conversation with the 4 regents who aren't on the executive committee. So I just want to say, this is the perfect time. This is where, when you have a new president, that we can actually become better. We may never be perfect, and I'm not saying we should aim to be perfect. It would be great, but I don't know a perfect organization, and I've been a part of many. So please understand that. And I will make a motion that we table this. Tell me the exact wording you want. To table this motion for future discussion at future regent meetings. And, I'm not going to say it has to be February or March or April. I think the timing will be dependent on the work that's done on the review of our structure. So my amendment is simply to table this motion now.
Second. Any discussion on the motion to table? Please call the roll.
Could I make a comment?
Did you? Okay, you do have a comment. Okay.
When you boil all this down, I guess what I've heard is we're in a lot of change, so we can't make any decisions. And I don't know a time we're not going to be in change. And the other one is, if we don't make this decision now, it does put it off 2 years if you're going to try to align it with the biennial budget. So it will shove it down the road 2 more years.
Okay. I guess
we've never voted to be on the same schedule with the biennial. I mean, we've never.
No, I said if that's the goal.
Yeah, well,
it pushes it.
But we haven't talked about whether that's even a goal for all of us, frankly. So I do kind of think that we have a job to do with the budget, with the unicameral. We can do it many different ways. And continuity is certainly a part of the consideration, but there are other factors as well. And I think we tend to focus on just a piece of it, and we need to look at the bigger picture. That's all. So there's my motion.
Well, robust conversation. I think that's great that we can share and put these things out on the table here in front of the general public and the press and media, and have a good adult conversation and debate. Few comments I'd like to make, though, before we vote is that this matter was placed actually on the information portion of last October's meeting, or 2 months ago. I will say that I've received 0 calls about it since that time, but there's been oftentimes the question, why now? Well, I think why now because we're about to start a new biennium with the legislature. We've got a person who would automatically ascend to be the chair, but he's willing to say, I'll forego automatically ascending to the chair and stand for election. So it's open. Whoever the next chair is going to be would be open to a vote in February. There's no automatic guarantee that Regent Kinney would assume that position, and he's willing to let that happen on its own. And so with the annual meeting coming up for us next month or in 2 months, I think that's the why as far as the timing. I think if at the end of the day, if we were to just put this on paper and look at it and remove all the personalities and so forth, it would really seem like it would be the right thing to do. It'd be the best thing for the institution. And in my opinion, it's never too late to do the right thing. And so is it perfect? No. I think somebody said none of us are perfect. That's correct. In my opinion, there's only been one person on the face of the earth that graced this earth that was perfect, and that's over 2,000 years ago. So I think as we can we get incrementally better Day by day, week by week, meeting by meeting, yes. And so due to that, I am in support of actually moving to the 2-year chairs, whoever that next person might be, because again, I am not running for chair. To do that would be self-serving, and so I just want to make that very clear. But with that, let's go ahead and take the vote up on the motion to table.
Regent Herbin.
Abstain.
Regent Schroeder. Regent Adidam.
Abstain.
Regent Devaraju.
Abstain.
Regent O'Connor.
I approve the motion to table.
Regent Schaefer.
No, oppose.
Regent Shear.
No.
Regent Stark.
Yes.
Regent Whites.
Yes?
Regent Wilmot.
No.
Regent Clare. Regent Kenny.
No.
Motion fails.
Okay, so we're back to the original motion. Is there any other comment or discussion on the original motion?
I'd like to make one quick one. We've talked about communication, the problem that we have with communication, and everything we do is a committee of set aside. So did I know anything about the meat class that was getting dropped? No. But I trust that committee to do the right thing, where, what we did on exec, we thought we were doing the right thing. It's out here, we're discussing it, and if you don't trust what the other committee's doing, then we got a problem. And you just need to eliminate the committees and bring everything to the table, and we'll start discussing it here.
Any other comments? Having none, please call the roll.
Regent Devaraju.
Excuse me, can you say what is it we're
Yes,
voting
this
on?
is we're voting on the motion to approve item 11C1.
How does the motion that,
Because the motion to table failed.
Oh,
So
I
we
see.
had a
I
motion
gotcha.
and a second originally on 11C1. So, okay. Regent Devaraju. Regent Herbin.
Abstain.
Regent Schroeder. Regent Adidam.
Abstain.
Regent Kenny.
Yes.
Regent O'Connor.
no,
Regent Schaefer.
Yes.
Regent Shear.
Yes.
Regent Stark.
No.
Regent Whites.
no.
Regent Wilmot.
Yes.
Regent Clare. The motion fails.
Okay. All right. We'll move on now to item 11C2, which seeks your approval of the performance-based metrics upon which President Gold's performance-based merit pay will be based for the fiscal year 2024 through 2025. Section 2, paragraph C of President Gold's contract of employment provides that he shall be eligible for performance-based merit pay of up to 15% of his base salary at the end of each full year of employment, with the first date of eligibility being June 30th, 2025. This provides the structure and contains both qualitative and quantitative aspects. Per the terms of President Gold's contract, the performance-based metrics will be reviewed and updated at the end of each fiscal year. Is there a motion to approve item 11C2?
So move. Second.
Is there any discussion?
Mr. President?
She caught my eye first. Regent O'Connor.
Sorry, Regent Kinney. I just want to say that I am proud of this. I think that we did a lot of hard work. I think that what we expect out of our president, I think that's good for him, for us, and I like that we brought it out into the light. And I think we started this project with Governor Pillen, who was then a regent, and I think work, and I appreciate the work that everyone put into it. I might be in this bullet point on page 155, just to change President.
You think?
I agree with that.
You can send it to him. I'm sure he would
I
probably take it.
disagree with that.
You finally got the vote.
Yeah.
I would change my motion to approve it.
Seconds are there. Okay. Any other comments, questions? I'll just take a brief moment to say I couldn't be thrilled anymore with the performance of President Gold since he's taken office, and quite frankly, all the work he put in before he took office. And so I'm sure whatever the metrics show, we'll put good data in, and I'm sure we're going to get a good result at the end of the day. But just to give a little midpoint review here after being on the job nearly 6 months, at least in my opinion, job well done. So thank you. Keep up the good work that you're doing.
Appreciate your kind words, and I also appreciate the tremendous feedback from members of the board in getting this document corrected. And I do strongly agree that we should not send these funds to Columbus, Ohio.
All right. Anyone else? Please call the roll.
Regent Schroeder. Regent Adidam.
Yes.
Regent Devaraju.
Yes.
Regent Herbin.
Yes.
Regent Schaefer.
Yes.
Regent Shear.
Yes.
Regent Stark.
Yes.
Regent Whites.
Yes.
Regent Wilmot.
Yes.
Regent Clare.
Yes.
Regent Kenny.
Yes.
Regent O'Connor. The motion passes.
Regent Schaefer, there are also numerous reports for the board's review. Some of them are quite important in that they contain information regarding the summer term, fall enrollment, fall retention, student credit hours, etc., and I commend them to you for your review.
I accept the reports listed in the agenda on behalf of the board. Is there now a motion for a closed session?
Chair, I move that the Board of Regents go into closed session as authorized by Section 84-1410 of the revised statutes of Nebraska for the protection of the public interest and to prevent needless injury to the reputation of persons who have not requested a public hearing for the purpose of holding a discussion limited to the following subjects: strategy session with respect to real estate purchases, personnel matters, and updates on investigations and pending or threatened litigation.
Okay, we lost a couple regents here quickly, but we do need to vote on this matter, so I kind of put my hook out there for Regent Stark to please sit tight. So do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. For those of us here, we still have a quorum present, so let's go ahead and call the roll.
Regent Adidam. Regent Devaraju.
Yes.
Regent Herbin. Regent Schroeder. Regent Shear.
Yes.
Regent Stark.
Yes.
Regent Whites.
Yes.
Regent Wilmot.
Yes.
Regent Clare. Nope. Regent O'Connor.
Yes. Yep.
Regent Schaefer.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Do you know if we're still?
I don't know.
You want the thing?
We're talking about tax.
Let the minutes of this session shall be strictly limited to discussion of the following subjects: strategy session with respect to real estate purchases, 2 personnel matters, and 3 updates on investigations and pending and threatened litigation. We are now in closed session. As you leave the room, please take all your belongings as well as any recording devices.
10 minutes.
And we'll now go ahead and take a 10-minute break. Let's reconvene at 11:40. It is now 12:31 p.m. and we are back in open session. There being no further business, if there's no objection, we stand adjourned. Thank you.